Hello, folks. Good evening. Welcome if you're joining us live, or if you're watching the watch back later on. Perhaps you're maintaining some kind of social life, or maybe you're just eating your tea. So either way, tonight we are looking at mindfulness. We've got Simon Attridge coming in very shortly as our special guest, and he's a Breathworks mindfulness teacher. He's also a pastoral support worker in a secondary school. And we're going to be looking at what is mindfulness, how is it different to meditation, how can it be helpful with children and adults during this crisis and beyond. And if you have any questions during the stream, do feel free to send a comment, and we will endeavour to answer those comments. And yeah, I was going to play a song, but I think I'll do the song at the end, actually, because Simon has somewhere to be later on. So just to let you know, we've got to change to the advertised programming tomorrow. We're supposed to have Grania Hayen to talk about psychotherapy, addiction and trauma. But unfortunately, because of all the stuff that's going on at the moment, there's people all off sick at work and stuff, so she can't make it. She's going to come back hopefully later this month. And we're just sorting out a replacement guest for tomorrow. Okay, so it's officially the weekend. And I wonder, how are you feeling? I wonder if you are doing something different to mark this weekend. It's a good tip, I think, to have some kind of structure and separate your weekends from your weekdays. Maybe you have to work this weekend. If you don't, maybe try doing something different, something that you would normally do at the weekend rather than a weekday. So you've got some kind of boundaries in place there, some kind of structure, and having a healthy routine. So for myself, I think I'm going to work tomorrow, but then Sunday, that's it. It's going to be a fun day. Sunday fun day. Okay. So I'm going to welcome Simon into the studio now. And like I say, if you have any questions, the studio. If you have any questions, just submit some comments. There we go. So welcome, Simon Attridge.
Hello.
How are you, Simon? Are you okay?
I'm good. Yeah, it's glad it's the weekend.
Yes, indeed.
I'm treating it as an ordinary Friday.
Yeah, good stuff. You were saying that I asked Simon if he was nervous before he came on air. He said, no, I've done a meditation, so I'm not nervous. So that's great. So Simon, you are a Breathworks mindfulness teacher, and you're also a pastoral support worker in the secondary school. And maybe before we kind of get into talking about mindfulness and meditation, could you perhaps give us a bit of background on your personal journey that's kind of brought you to this calling? Would you call it a calling?
In a certain sense, yeah. In a certain sense, yeah. Yeah. So, as Paul said, I've been a teacher for nearly 38 years. And during that time, I've been mainly an English teacher, but I've had responsibilities as a head of English for a long time, a member of the senior leadership team, a lot of pretty much full on work and a lot of stress, and most of the time very, very enjoyable, very rewarding. But I have found, and at a particular point in my career, I found that the amount of stress that I had and the balance between my work life and my home life was not good. And also, a lot of changes in education became difficult to deal with. It was a lot less child center. It was all about data. It was all about exam results. And you had a lot of people who led schools who really the focus was, in my view, on the wrong things. And so this affected my mental health very badly. And I think that I'd probably, well, I'm almost certain now on reflection, suffered from acute anxiety for most of my life since I was a teenager. But it got to a point where I couldn't actually go into school. I couldn't actually walk through the doors of the school because it was just too painful. It was too difficult. And so I had quite a long time off work. And during that time, I had a chat with a friend of mine. He was actually my best man. And he's a really interesting guy. And at one point in his life, I think for about 5 years, he was a Cistercian monk. And without going into the history of monasteries and so on, it's a very disciplined and very strict regime, which he thoroughly enjoyed. And he's left now for his own reasons. He's a teacher as well, but he put me in touch with a book called Peace in a Frantic World by a man called Mark Williams, which is a very very kind of seminal work about meditation and mindfulness. And I had been on medication. I had done a little bit of CBT. I had counselling, some of which was useful. Some of it was not useful. And I did wonder often, what antidepressants did for me or didn't do for me. And reading this text, this book, it really kind of was a bit of a light bulb moment, because it was a way of dealing with my anxiety issues and other issues in a way which was where I was taking control of it. And it was also about dealing with things as they actually are at that time. It wasn't waiting for things to get better. It wasn't waiting for the moment where things would be happy. It was actually dealing with how I felt at that time and accepting how I felt at that time. So that's how I started. And once I'd started on that, I then learned how to teach mindfulness to children, 11 to 16-year-olds, and did that in secondary school, which was really interesting and really rewarding. And after that, I started to practice meditation and work with a group in Manchester, which was a group which was for therapists and people who worked in the NHS. So most of these people were nurses, doctors, psychologists, psychotherapists, all sorts of people. And we used to meet, well, we still do, once a month, once every couple of months. And the guy who led it suggested to me after a couple of years that maybe I should train as a teacher. And that was about three and a half years ago. And since then, I've been training as a Breathworks teacher. I have been supporting mindfulness courses for stress, mindfulness courses for health, and I've taught, I think, about 3 or 4 mindfulness for stress courses, including ones which have got me for my qualification. So that is kind of the practicalities, but in a sense, what I like about it is that I've been learning about something, but the most important thing is actually you have to embody what you're learning. I've spent my life, but I can distance myself from a lot of things, but this is about actually you. It's about how it affects you, and you can't do it properly unless you actually embody what you're, it's a cliche, isn't it? You practice what you preach. And practice is what it's about. Practice what it's about, and that's why I do it. And I'm not saying I'm any better or any more kind of calm or anxious than I have been all my life. It's just now that I do have ways of firstly accepting it and ways of dealing with it. And my natural inclination, having been a teacher for so long, is to share something that I think is worthwhile, and I, you know, I fully think it's worthwhile, you know, to get to the point where my daughter, who was constantly saying to me, "Will you stop banging on about mindfulness, Dad?" So, yeah, okay, that's fine. But how many mindfulness courses has she done? At least 3. So, you know, it is something that it is worth banging on about. And even though you know, maybe people, you know, get a bit fed up with it sometimes, you know, I will continue to bang on about mindfulness. So that in brief is, you know, where I've come from, and where I'm staying. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. And I can, a lot of that resonates with me. You know, I bang the drum about it, and I sometimes think I'm getting a little bit evangelistic here.
Yeah. I think you need to step back and have a sense of humor as well about it. Yeah. Don't take yourself too seriously. You know, you're not special. You just trying to be the best version of yourself, you know, which is a good thing. Yeah.
Nice words. So, what is the difference between mindfulness and meditation? I think it's something that some folks get confused or mixed up with.
In some ways, mindfulness includes everything you do, and can be part of everything you do. Meditation is, I suppose, it's a bit like honing skills in the way you can use mindfulness in the whole of your everyday life. So meditation is a big part of mindfulness, but the bigger part is basically how you deal with life as it is. It's just mindfulness meditation can equip you for dealing with some of the things that life hits you with. And obviously meditations are a tiny part of your day, you know, unless you're a Buddhist monk in the jungles of Thailand, you're doing it 24 hours a day. It's going to be a small part, but it's almost like, I would say medicine, because that gives a negative connotation, but it's something that is about kind of keeping you healthy to do the things that you need to do in your ordinary life. So it's not something that is separate, and it's not something that is not, I don't think, practical. I think it's entirely practical. You know, some people think, well, it's time wasted or empty time. I think it's not empty time, because it fills you up with something which you then can take somewhere else. And sometimes it's a really good meal, sometimes it's a bit of fast food, you know, but you do it like you eat. You do it every day, because well, you know, in one way or another. And as I say, sometimes you can take a long time and have a good meal, sometimes it's a snack, but it's still the same. Yeah. Bit rambling, but yeah.
No, it's a nice foodie metaphor. I like that. You can employ mindfulness in everything you do. It's a way of being. That's how I look at it. And you can mindfully, rather than shoveling it all down. It's, you know, bring every bite, and you can walk mindfully. You can
exactly. You could clean your teeth, have a shower, walk the dog, watch television. You know, anything at all, it can be applied to. And I think meditation is just that. It's just that when you're taking a really long time over it and having a good meal, you know. So that's how I would explain it.
Really noticing, focusing, being in the moment.
Yes, yeah, definitely, yeah.
You mentioned earlier on about that kind of accepting reality as it is, and the journey that brought you here. It sounds like there was a lot of anxiety, and it's not like you've been cured of your anxiety, but you have tools to deal with it and manage it.
Yeah, I am no less anxious than I have been in my whole life, but it's now that I can say, well, that's fine, that's natural, that's the way it is. And I've got ways of dealing with it They might not work today, they might not work tomorrow, but it won't be around all the time. And you have that kind of understanding that there's always going to be anxiety, and that's a natural state. Sometimes it's going to be fairly low level, other times it's going to be, but that's natural. And it's just kind of reassuring that it's it's not permanent, and B, there is something that you can do about it. Yeah.
A quote, I think it was Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now Man. Are you familiar with Eckhart Tolle?
I have heard, yeah.
I think he said that even if you are going to be in prison for the rest of your life, and it's horrible, you're not in prison for the rest of your life in this moment. And
yes.
you can survive this moment and just say, this is now, and actually it's not nice, but it's tolerable. That's all you have to do, and keep accepting that moment and not thinking about all of the terrible things that might or might not happen in the rest of your time, in prison or in life.
Yeah. And I think it's that present moment awareness, which is the key, which seems so simple, but actually, because of the way in which we live our lives, is actually quite difficult, and it's trying to develop that, as you say, being in the present, being aware of things as they are in this moment.
And even being aware of them, and also maybe accepting them without judgment.
Definitely. Because some of the things which you perceive as being bad in this moment you'll only fully be aware of the consequences of it in the future. So it may, you may think this is terrible, but it may not be. I mean, some things, it is, it's not thinking that something is fixed and it's not like that. We will always have problems. We will all have problems, but it's the way we deal with them that's the important thing. And I think that's what is the important thing, and we can do something about it. It's not fixed. I think that's what I found. Because you're anxious doesn't mean you're going to be anxious all the time. It will be some of the time, but it's not all the time.
Our power is in how we respond. Because,
absolutely. And it's being able to make a choice rather than just responding. And again, I think that's something which I spent years and years and years doing, is responding to things, reacting to things rather than responding. And I think that is important to develop that skill as well, that you don't have to react. You can respond, and you can choose how you respond to what, whatever is happening to you.
So for me, meditation practice, mindfulness practice, the key is in the practice. And I know several people who I've banged on about mindfulness and meditation to, and they've said, I tried it a couple of times, 10 minutes, put Headspace on a couple of times, but I couldn't do it. I was rubbish at it. Thoughts kept coming into my mind. I just can't do it. And I think, okay, the clue's in the question, the word practice.
Yes.
And it to, someone who's training for a marathon or something like that. You can't just go to the gym twice for 10 minutes and it's fit for a marathon. Mindfulness and meditation is a practice.
And I'm not by any means a neuroscientist, but the science behind it, and the way in which they've looked at people's brains, that doing mindfulness over a period of time does actually affect the way in which your brain works, developing neural pathways and so on, which don't happen overnight. Your brain doesn't change, like your muscles don't suddenly go just because you lift a couple of weights in the gym. It does take time. And again, I think that is really important, and it's like everything. It's up and down. It's not there's a kind of their approach in mindfulness. It talks about the beginner's mind. That basically, when you do a meditation or anything really, you try and start it from a point where it's as if you've never done it before. So you've got no baggage behind you. You've got no expectation. So you just do it from there. So you're not expecting to suddenly, become, top mindfulness top meditator of the year. You just start from that level. And I think that's really important, because that's why you practice, not necessarily to get better, but just to practice. The practice is enough. It's not about getting better at it. It's just practice, and those make changes in your mind as well, and to your brain, which over a period of time are significant. Yeah,
absolutely. The science is there now to back it up, isn't it? Around the neuroplasticity and those.
That's right.
It just gets strengthened and strengthened the more we do something.
Yeah.
Scientifically proven, so we like that.
Yeah, well, it is on the NHS guidelines as a recognisable therapy. So yeah. And if you go to certain things, like you go to say tinnitus, the advice from NHS there is to use mindfulness to deal with it, which is something I do because I suffer from tinnitus, and that's basically what they tell you to do. So yeah, and if you can learn that, it helps. It does help. Yeah,
me too. I'm there with you. So, how can mindfulness be useful? You've explained how it's useful for you and generally, and I'm thinking more specifically now. 2 examples. So, firstly, during this coronavirus crisis, where there's a lot of anxiety about, a lot of fear, a lot of uncertainty, and secondly, if you've got any tips around from your teaching background and your pastoral work, how can it be useful for children as well as adults in this difficult situation we find ourselves and beyond, if that's not 4 questions in one side?
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the key things is something you mentioned before, about not living in the future or the past. And in the situation we're in now, I think we all have to live in the present, because we really don't know what the future is going to be, how long the situation we are in now is going to be, what changes it's going to create. So we are actually in a situation now that kind of thought process is not helpful to you. So anything that is going to bring you back to actually the moment that you're in now is going to be important, because I think a lot of anxiety comes when you start to worry about what might happen. And clearly at this point in time, there are lots and lots of concerns that people have about themselves, about their family, about their job, everything. And so, you don't have a control over them, but you do have a control over how you react. So I think mindfulness will give you an opportunity to basically make some choices, not about things you can't change, but about things you can change, which is about how you respond to the feelings that you're having at this time. And it may be just being able to listen to them and to accept them, and just be aware of them is fine. So I think those things, just giving yourself time to be aware of how you're feeling, and being aware that you can accept how you're feeling. And also, I think doing things like this as a community where everybody is feeling very similar. Some people can talk about it, some people can't, but you're not, we're definitely alone. I think that you'd find very few people that won't admit, will have these feelings, whether they admit to them or not. So that's what I think, I think it's that present moment awareness and acceptance that is very, very useful. Yeah.
Yes. Acknowledging those feelings and validating them.
And not judging yourself about those feelings, because they're just thoughts. That's not about who you are or what you are, and not being not saying that this is weakness, or this natural. This is what your mind does, and this is what everyone's mind does. Yeah.
Don't believe thoughts. Here's the
Yeah,
headline. Don't
exactly. Yeah. They're tricky things. Yeah,
believe.
definitely.
So you're going to lead us in the meditation shortly.
Yes.
Is there anything else you'd like to say? Anything we haven't covered that you think is important to get across?
You mentioned children, and I think, as a parent, my children are grown up now. Certainly, I think there's two ways of looking at it, depending upon the age of the children. I think with younger children, in some ways, it's really harnessing their natural kind of inquisitiveness. So, harnessing that, like their interest or something, but also maybe getting them to slow down a bit sometimes. So, if you're going for a walk or something like that, that's great because it's energy, but maybe just spend a little time, just look at something a bit more carefully, listen to something a bit more carefully, talk about it and so on. And also just allow them sometimes just to do nothing. Just sit still. There's a little thing they do in mindfulness in schools. It's called Fofbok, which is for it's feet on floor, bum on chair, and basically it's just saying, right, let's just have a Fofbok. Just sit down, and that's how you start a meditation. But with a child, I mean, that can be it. Just sit on the chair. It might be for a minute, but something like that. So it's just little things, really. And I think for any child over 11 up into adult, I think the things are very similar. It's about taking your time, to do things, giving yourself time to just pause, not rush, and just be aware of how you're feeling, and just allow yourself, to feel what you're feeling at this time. If you're feeling sad, that's fine. If you're feeling anxious, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, and don't fight against those things. But a lot, and I mean, there are things like Headspace and so on that people can use, which are fine. And I'll put out a list of things and so on at some point. But a lot of what you can do for younger people is very similar from what you can do for adults. And so there's a lot of things online. There's the Mark Williams things, some of the Breathworks things. They're good. They're really good. Yeah.
Great. Thanks for that. And modeling is a big part of that, I think, especially with
sorry, I meant to say that as well. Yeah, but for children of all ages, certainly for younger children, actually doing those things with your children as well. So if you want to model how to do a Fofbok, you do it. So right, we'll sit. And it can be a game. Let's see how long we can sit like that. And even with in the way that you're doing things, just try to model for your children. So if you're running around in a flat spin all the time, they'll do the same thing. Modeling and doing things with children is great. And if they're prepared to do that, your own child, whatever age, then do it. Yeah.
Stress can be contagious, but also calmness can be contagious. And if we do,
absolutely, yes, definitely, yeah.
Wow, let's look at that flower. Oh, look, there's a little bumblebee.
Yeah,
slowing down.
Definitely, yeah.
We could all do with slowing down, and maybe that's happening. Yep. It's being enforced on us a little bit, I think, with this virus situation, and I'm seeing a lot of benefits. So it's not all bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with that, are you happy to lead us in a meditation?
Absolutely fine. Yeah, I will do that. Okay.
So over to you.
Okay. So before I lead the meditation, I'm just going to read a poem, and this is not by me. It's one I found. There's a Breathworks group, which you basically, there is Breathworks poetry, where people either write poems or they choose poems, because in Breathworks teaching and when I do my courses, I do use a lot of poetry and stories, because I think sometimes they can say things that, you know, us normal inarticulate people can't say as well. And this one is basically about the situation that we're in now. You did mention positives, which is a strange way, you know, in some ways, but I think we have to think about, you know, how this is affecting us. So is this, I'll just read the poem before I start the meditation. So it says, when this is over, may we never again take for granted a handshake with a stranger, full shelves at the store, conversations with neighbours, a crowded theatre, a Friday night out, a routine checkup, the school rush each morning, coffee with a friend, the stadium roaring, each deep breath, a boring Tuesday, life itself. When this ends, may we find that we have become more like the people we wanted to be, we were called to be, we hoped to be. And may we stay that way, better for each other because of the worst. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I will ring my little meditation bell 3 times, and then we will start the meditation. And when the meditation comes to an end, I will ring it 3 times for the meditation to finish. Okay, and I would suggest while people are doing the meditation that they sit in a comfortable chair with a back, but don't sit back like that. If you sit forward, and make sure your feet are very firmly on the floor and you've got a very good contact with the seat of the chair, and just get yourself relaxed, relax your shoulders, relax your neck. And also, if you want to shut your eyes, I would recommend shutting your eyes. It's always best to shut your eyes. You can either keep your head straight or you can lower it. It doesn't really matter. And just make sure that you are giving this time just over to yourself. All right. And don't feel guilty about it. Don't feel bad about it. Just enjoy it. So I'll ring the bell 3 times and then I will start. So to begin, just get a sense of your feet in contact with the floor. What do you feel with your feet on the floor? Do you have a strong, firm, stable base? And now see if you can draw your attention and focus to your contact with the chair. Again, just be aware of any sensations, any feelings that you have as you be aware of that contact between yourself and the chair. Do you feel supported? Do you feel stable? And now very, very quietly, just be aware of the whole of your body and your posture as you sit in the chair. Are you aware of any areas of tension? Are you aware of any pleasant feelings? any warmth, any tingling. Just spend a few moments very gently and quietly and slowly just scanning through your body, just to be aware of how your body feels at this time, in this moment. And if there are any areas that you feel tension, just see if you can use your breath to ease that tension, or if you need to do any slight movements, that's fine. And you don't have to sit still. Don't sit with any discomfort at all. For the next 5 or 6 minutes, just feel that you can be as comfortable as you can at this time. So we are now going to begin a short mindfulness meditation for breathing. And we're going to use our breath as an anchor to anchor ourselves in the present moment. And also try to use the breath as a means of developing some kindness towards ourselves. So while we do this meditation, you'll find that your mind is filled with thoughts. It's natural. It's what happens with everybody. So don't beat yourself up about this. If a thought comes into your mind, just acknowledge the thought and let it go. And it doesn't matter how many times you have a thought. It might be 10, 20, it might be 100 times. That's absolutely fine. It's what minds do. Let's see if you can just accept that thought and let it go. And now if you can, I'd like you to bring your attention to the sensations of the breath going in and out at your nose. So just see if you can be aware of what happens when you breathe in and when you breathe out. So just spend some time being with this experience of the breath going in through the nose and out through the nose. In through the nose, out through the nose. And while you're breathing, don't try to make your breath any different than the normal breath you take. It doesn't need to be deeper or quicker. Just allow the breath to breathe itself. A natural, slow, calm, regular breath. Now I'd like you, if you can, to take your awareness to your chest area. And see if you can be aware of the rise and fall of your chest as you're breathing in and breathing out. So how does this feel? What do you notice about your breath? Can you be aware of this rise and fall in your chest as you breathe in and you breathe out? And just remember, when thoughts come, as they will, just be aware of them passing like clouds in the sky or bubbles. Just watch them and let them go, and then take your mind back to your breathing. So this is why the breath can be used as an anchor to bring you back to the present moment, to take you away from your wandering mind. And I'd like to see if you could take your awareness further down your body to your tummy area, your abdomen, your belly. And see if you can be aware of the sensation of the breath in this part of your body. The breath in, the breath out. The breath in, the breath out. And now, if you can, I'd like to see if you could take your awareness to the back of your body. Do you get a sense of your breath going into the back, your lower back, your middle back, the back of your chest, your rib cage? You may feel very little. You may be aware of the breath very strongly, but just see if you can take your awareness to the back of your body as well as the front. So how does this feel? Is your breathing regular, slow? Is it pleasant? Is it unpleasant? Just be aware of how it feels to be breathing at this moment, at this time. Now, if you can, I'd like you to see if you can be aware of the whole journey of your breath, from your breath in through the nose, down your throat, to your chest area, down to your belly and your abdomen. Just see if you can be aware of your breath going all the way in and all the way out, all the way in, all the way out. Now, before we bring the meditation to an end, just now bring your awareness to your whole of your body sat in the chair, your feet on the floor, your contact with the chair. And just like we did at the start, just scan very slowly through your body. Just be aware of anything that you may feel that's different, any tingling, any warmth, any areas of discomfort. Just bring your awareness to the whole of your body. And maybe as well, just check in with your feelings, how you're feeling at this moment in time. You may feel your mind is racing more, you may feel that you've calmed down. It doesn't matter. However you feel is just how you feel this time. There's no right or wrong. So in a few moments I'll ring the bell 3 times to bring the meditation to a close. Please don't rush to open your eyes, don't rush to move. This is your time. Take your time slowly to open your eyes. Take your time slowly to come out of meditation. Maybe start with some very small movements of fingers and your toes. But just take it slowly and gently. All right, thank you.
Thank you. That was really lovely. Thank you, Simon. So thank you for the meditation and the benefits of your expertise and experience and sharing your journey with us as well. Much appreciated. So if folks want to know more about you and upcoming courses and such like, where can they find out more?
At the moment, any courses that I'm doing will be advertised on my Facebook page, but also on the Satellite Centre Facebook page as well, because most of the work I do will be there. So obviously at this moment in time, I don't know when I'll be able to do my next courses, but I will be planning to lead either or both a 6-week mindfulness stress course, which is helping people deal with issues of anxiety, and also a mindfulness for health course, which is a way of supporting people who maybe suffer from some kind of chronic pain or some kind of condition, and helps people to deal with that. So yeah, if you look at my Facebook page, but also the satellite centre as well, you'll find it there.
Thank you, Simon. Maybe
Okay.
once the broadcast is finished, you could comment with a link to your Facebook page, something like that.
Yeah, I could do that. Okay.
The poem. Thank you for the poem.
All right. Thank you, Paul. Thank you for having me.
Thank
I'll
you.
go to my tea. All right. Bye-bye.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that, folks. It's, yeah, I thought it was really lovely. I was moved by that poem. It's really resonated with me, and it was a nice, nice calming, grounding meditation. So I wonder how you're feeling now after that. So do feel free to leave comments, whether you're watching this live or watching the watch back, because you have some other kind of social life going on. I know Hayley said something earlier on. She's got a family quiz going on. Lovely. What better thing to do on a Friday night than connect with your family, have a bit of fun. Marvellous. And lots of words of wisdom from Rachel. Yes, indeed. Wise man. And he's a lovely man as well. Thank you, Simon. So I was going to play a song. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to leave it till tomorrow, because I feel like we've come down. Certainly I've come down. That's where I want to stay. I don't want to get up again. So I'll do that tomorrow. So I hope you have a lovely rest of the day, and I hope you're able this weekend to do something different, have some boundaries, make it fun time, relaxing time, you time. If you don't have to go to work, do something different if you can, to maintain that separation between weekdays and weekends. And may you all be well and mindful and compassionate to yourselves and to each other. See you tomorrow. Take care, folks.